Hey guys, this is Miss Kindig here helping you with IXL skill DD.1, probability of simple events. Number 1. A spinner has 20 equal sections of which 4 are red. If you spin the spinner once, what is the probability that it will land on a red section? Write your answer as a fraction or whole number. Now, this is important, a fraction or a whole number, because some of the questions on the IXO lesson will ask you to write it as a percentage. So this P here, this capital P, this means what is the probability that the spinner will land on a red section. So what is the probability that it will be red? All right, so what you need to do is you need to make sure that you look at the number of red sections, right? Red, the number of red over the total number. All right, so the number of red we saw are 4. 4 are red, so that would be your top number, your numerator, and then your denominator is the total number, which is 20. The total number goes on the bottom and it's 20. So I know that IXL will accept 4 over 20, but remember that if you are doing a test that has multiple choice questions or selections, they might want you to get the simplest form or reduce this fraction. So we need to find the GCF. The GCF of 4 and 20 is the number that we will divide both the top and the bottom number by. So we've got, okay, 4 and 20, they have a 4 in common. So we will divide both by 4. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 20 divided by 4 is 5. So our answer is 1 out of 5 spins will land on a red section. Let's look at number 2. Let's look at number 2. You pick a card at random. The cards are 5, 6, 7, and 8. Write your answer as a fraction. Now, there are 3 different parts that we want to do. You might be asked something like question A. What is the probability that you will choose 8? Well, we know that there are 4 cards, so the total number goes on the bottom. The total number goes on the bottom, and this is the probability that you will choose an 8, right? The probability that you will choose an 8. So there's 1 8, so that would be the top number. There are 4 total cards, so the probability that you will choose an 8 would be 1/4. B. What is the probability that you will choose something less than 8? So you've got to take the probability that you will choose that's greater than. The probability that you will choose a number less than 8, right? Over the total number of cards. So, what is less than 8? Well, 7, 6, and 5 are all less than 8. So there are 3 cards that are less than 8, and there are 4 total cards. So 3 cards less than 8 and 4 total cards would give us the answer of 3/4. Now, C, what is the probability that you will choose a prime number? Well, first of all, we have to remember what a prime number is. A prime number is a number that has factors of that are 1 and itself. 1 and itself. So let's think of factors of each of these numbers, right? So we've got 5. We know the factors of 5 are 1 times 5, right? The factors of 6 are 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. The factors of 7, 1 times 7. The factors of 8 are 1 times 8 and 2 times 4. So what we want to remember is a prime number is a number that has a factor of 1 and itself only. So the only 2 prime numbers are 5 and 7. So there are 2 out of the 4 numbers, 2 out of the 4. Now we can also reduce those. We need to reduce it by finding the greatest common factor, or the GCF. They have a 2 in common, so we can divide both the top and the number, the numerator and the denominator by 2, and we get 1 over 2. So it would be 1/2. Now, A and B, you did not have to divide because 1 and 4 have nothing in common, and 3 and 4 have nothing in common. So that's why you didn't have to divide and use the GCF there. Let's go on to number 3. All right. 3 says Farah is the costume manager for a large theater company. She has 14 different hats, including 2 fedoras. Now, this word including is very important. What is the probability that a random chosen hat from Farah's inventory will be a fedora? Write your answer as a fraction or a whole number. So they're wanting to know what is the probability that if you randomly choose a hat, you will get a fedora. All right, so we know that she has 14 different hats, including 2 fedoras. So we need to know the probability of choosing a fedora, right? The probability of choosing a fedora over, the number of fedoras, right? The number of fedoras over the total number. The total number of hats that Farah has. All right, so what we want to do, how many are fedoras? And there are 2 that are fedoras. Now the total, there are 14 different hats including, so the 2 fedoras are included in that, so there are 14 hats. Right? Now we can find the GCF, the factor that both of those have in common, the 2 and the 14. We can divide both of them by 2, and we get 1 over 7. So 1 out of 7 hats chosen will be a fedora. Number 4, the barista at the organic cafe kept track of how many customers ordered each type of drink yesterday. Okay, so 31 ordered iced coffees, 6 ordered cappuccinos, and 17 ordered iced teas. What is the probability that a randomly selected customer ordered a cappuccino? Write your answer as a fraction or a whole number. All right, so we need to look at the cappuccinos. So we need to put the cappuccinos on top, and I'm just going to abbreviate, over the total number. Okay, so the number of cappuccinos that were ordered were 6 over the total number. Now, what we have to do is we have to add all of these together to get the total. Okay, so we've got to say, all right, 31 plus 6 plus 17, and that's going to give us the total. 1 plus 6 is 7. 7 plus 7 is 14. Put down the 4, carry the 1. 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So we have a total of 54 drinks. All right, so we know that 6 out of 54 drinks ordered were cappuccinos. So now we can get the GCF. We can divide by the greatest common factor. Now, we could say a 2, but a 2 would only give us one of the factors. It wouldn't be the greatest since both of these are even. So we can also say a 3, but a 3 wouldn't be the greatest. So the greatest would be a 6. All right. 6 divided by 6 is 1. 54 divided by 6 is 9. So 1 out of 9 drinks ordered would be a cappuccino. All right, let's move on to the next side. You're going to turn your paper over or go to the second page, and we have number 5. You flip a coin. What is the probability that the coin will land on tails? Okay, so now you're flipping a coin. So a coin has 2 sides. There are 2 sides on a coin. Knowing that, that would be the total number of sides right there. So the total number of sides would go on the bottom. That would be the denominator. And the part that's tails, how many are tails? Well, that would be 1. So 1 over the total number of sides would be 2. So it says write your answer as a fraction. So that would be 1/2, 1 over 2. and as a percentage. Now, this is just a review. You should know how to change a fraction into a percent. I'm going to show you how to do so. If you've forgotten, there are two ways we can do this. We can say, okay, a percentage is out of 100. So we can put 100 on the bottom of the fraction in the denominator spot. So we can say 2 times what gives me 100? Well, that's 2 times 50, right? So we can say, okay, now 1 times 50, which would be 50. 50 over 100 would be what we would get. So 50 out of 100 would be 50%. You can do it that way. Or sometimes you might not be able to do that shortcut way because the denominators have nothing in common or no number to multiply by. So what you can do at that point, remember, and this will always work, you can say, okay, a 2, the bottom number goes on the outside, and the top number, the numerator, goes on the inside. You got to put 1.00 and add a decimal. You raise your decimal to the roof, right? And you say, okay, will 2 go into 1? No, 0 times. 2 goes into 10, 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10, and we subtract and we're done. But remember, after we get the decimal, we have to say, okay, 0, 0.5. Now we got to move it 2 places to the right. Put your decimal, and in that little swirly, you're going to put a 0 in that little loop. So that would be 50%. So the percentage would be 50%. Now this is a skill that you should already have attained, and if you didn't, we already discussed how to do this earlier this school year. All right, so let's move on to number 6. There are 6 Labrador retrievers at the dog park, on a busy Saturday, along with 14 other dogs. Now, I'm going to tell you something. That's really, really important right there. There are 6 along with 14 other dogs. Okay, what is the probability that a randomly selected dog is a Labrador retriever? Write your answer as a fraction or a whole number. Okay, so how many Labrador retrievers are there? Remember, that's your numerator. There are 6. But now the denominator has to be the total number of dogs. Well, if there are 6 labs plus 14 other dogs, then that means there are a total of 20 dogs. Now the 20 dogs has to go in the denominator spot. So you would not put 14 in the denominator spot because that's the other dogs, but the total is what goes in the denominator, okay? So 6 out of 20. Now we can reduce that. We can find the greatest common factor. The greatest common factor of these two is the number 2. So we're going to divide the top by 2 and the bottom by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And 20 divided by 2 is 10. So 3 out of 10 dogs would be Labrador retrievers. Number 7, you roll a 6-sided dice. Write your answer as a fraction and as a percent. So now they want you to do both. All right, so there are 6 sides total. This is the total number of sides. That's important. That's going to be your denominator. All right, so what is the probability that you will roll an odd number? Well, what are odd numbers? Odd numbers are numbers that are not even, right? So it would be 1, 3, and 5. 1, 3, and 5 are all odd numbers. Okay, so that means there are 3 odd numbers. So that's going to be our numerator. And then there are 6 sides of the dice. That's our denominator. Okay, now we can divide by the greatest common factor, which is 3. And so we would get 1 over 2. So 1 out of 2 rolls would be odd. All right, so now we have to write that as a percent. We just did that back up in number 5. 1/2 is 50%. Okay. Now, let's look at what is the probability, part B. What is the probability that you'll roll a 6? Well, how many 6s are on the dice? There's only one side that has a 6, so that would be your numerator. Your denominator, there are 6 sides total. So the fraction would be 1 out of 6. Now remember, to get a percent, you can say out of 100%, but 6 doesn't go into 100 equally. So what we'll have to do then is use division. And again, this is something we've learned already. You would put a 6 on the outside, right? The 6 goes on the outside, and then you would put a 1.00 on the inside. All right, so bring your decimal up to the rooftop. 6 goes into 1, 0 times. 6 goes into 10, 1 time. 1 times 6 is 6. Subtract, and you get a 4. Bring down a 0, and now 6 goes into 40. 6 goes into 40 6 times. 6 times 6 is 36. Look what's happening. When we subtract, we're going to still get a 4. Okay, so we know that it's going to keep being 40. Okay, when we bring this decimal down, it's going to keep being 40. So that 6 is repeating. Remember, we put a line over it if it is repeating. So now the decimal is 0.16. Now that's going to keep going, right? So we've got to move the decimal 2 places to the right to get a percent, and that 6 is going to keep going. So this as a percent would be 16.6%. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that there will be nothing this difficult on IXL. The percentages that you will get will be the common percentages that you know. They will actually equal out. It should equal everything out, not be a repeating decimal. I just wanted to remind you of how to do that. Now, number 8, restaurants often slip takeout menus under Anna's apartment door. Okay, so then the table shows how many menus Anna has collected from different types of restaurants. Okay, 1 from an Indian restaurant, 9 from a Korean, 2 from Mediterranean, 3 from Thai, and then 3 from Japanese restaurant. Okay, so what is the probability that one of Anna's takeout menus selected at random will be from a Mediterranean restaurant? Write your answer as a fraction or a whole number. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to say, okay, how many come from a Mediterranean? There will be 2. Remember, that's your numerator. The total number is adding all of those up together. So we have 1 plus 9, which is 10, plus 2, which is 12, plus 3, which is 15, plus 3, which is 18. So there are 18 total restaurants. Okay? 18 total restaurants. All right, so that's going to be our denominator. All right, so what we need to do now is divide by the greatest common factor. So that greatest common factor would be 2. And so 1 out of 9 restaurants would be a Mediterranean restaurant. Now, when you get onto IXL, go ahead and log on and do DD.1. This is a 7th grade standard, and you will make sure to see if they tell you to write your answer as a fraction or a whole number, or they might say write your answer as a percentage. So make sure to pay close attention to that. Thank you.